Today, carbon emissions from cars account for 20% of all carbon emissions produced every single day. Now, another fact is that by 2050, we need to reduce our carbon emissions by 40%. Now, 40%, I know that's a big number, may seem impossible, but when we pair these two facts together, we can clearly see that by cutting off the car emissions, we can get halfway to our goal of a 40% reduction. You see, today, I'm going to be telling you why you should trade in the current car you have and purchase an electric vehicle to use in your everyday travels. You see, research shows that the current carbon emissions are rising at a very alarming rate. And these come with very bad consequences as well, such as climate change, it comes with habitat loss, it comes with food scarcity, and water shortages. And that year 2050 is so crucial because that is a tipping point. It is the point of no return, to where if we don't do anything by that year, all the problems I just listed will only get worse exponentially. Now, using research from the Union of Concerned Scientists, Climate Central, Sciencing, and Tesla, I have constructed an educated argument as to why everyone should purchase an electric car. Now, today I'm going to be going over financial and environmental tragedies that are happening in your everyday life, whether you know it or not, and how one simple purchase can alleviate both these issues simultaneously. And by the end of this presentation, I'm sure you will agree with me that the future is in fact electric. So let's start out with the financial side of this disaster. And in order to do this, let's set up a scenario. Let's say you are an average working class US citizen. You live about an hour away from your work, where you drive 5 days a week to and from. That's 10 hours a week. However, we need to add 2 hours to that to account for both expected and unexpected errands that you're going to have to run. This leaves you with a grand total of 12 hours a week driving. That leads us to the next issue. How long is that one tank of gas going to last you? Well, I did the math, and the average tank of gas driving at 60 miles an hour will last you 400 miles. And you put that all together, and you're going to have to fill up your gas tank twice a week in order to get to those 12 hours. Well, the next issue is, how much does one tank of gas cost? And the average tank of gas costs $57.75. Now this means we're going to have to fill up twice a week, spending that amount twice. You may think, oh, $57.75, that's chump change. That's easy, I can do that. Until we expand that idea over the course of a year. Multiply that to the 52 weeks that there are, and we end up with a grand total of $6,006 a year that you are spending on gas alone. That's money out of your pocket that you can put right back in by making the simple switch of switching that gas-powered car for an electric one. Now that we've talked about the financial side, let's talk about environmental impact. So back to that earlier scenario where you're buying 2 tanks of gas, this means you're also using 2 tanks of gas every single week. You're burning through those 2 tanks. And again, you may think, Sam, what's the big deal? It's just 2 tanks. Well, let's expand that idea on a national level. There are 328 million people living in the US today. And if we expand those 2 gallons of gas per citizen, we can clearly see why 20% of carbon emissions come from cars alone. And again, this can be immediately stopped, prevented, and cut off by switching that gas-powered car for an electric one. Okay, so now we've talked about the financial side of things. We've talked about the environmental side of things. You're thinking, what is stopping me from going out and buying that electric car today? Well, when I looked, I found 2 main issues that people find when searching for an electric car, and that is the limited options on the current market and the range of batteries of those cars on the market seem to be inadequate. So starting out with those limited options, the issue is that there are not enough electric cars on the current car market. So when you go to see a car, you may see 20 gas-powered cars, but only 1 to 2 electric-powered cars. And in those 1 to 2 electric-powered cars, they all seem to look quite similar or unappealing to the average consumer. But thankfully, there is a solution on the way, because many companies are releasing full electric car lineups in the next 5 years. And now I'm not talking about these companies you've never heard of. I'm talking about Audi, Volvo, and Toyota have all pledged to release full electric lineups by 2025. And this will highly diversify the market of electric cars, leading them from looking like this, very similar, boxy, chunky, maybe not super appealing for everybody, to this, where we have SUVs and sports cars and cars that look good to the average consumer to buy. Moving on, let's talk about the battery range. Now, the battery range is an issue for people who drive long distances many times a year because it's quite inconvenient for them to have to stop and charge their vehicle, which is the next issue because charging the vehicle can maybe take 1 to 2 hours depending on what car you have. Now this makes electric cars seem very unappealing to the consumer. But thankfully, again, another solution, because technology constantly improves. This means that the range of the vehicle will not only improve, but the amount of time that it charges will decrease exponentially in the next few years. Take example, this car right here, the Tesla Roadster. It boasts a range of 620 miles per charge and a charging time of a mere 30 minutes. That is far from inconvenient if you ask me, as it even lasts longer than your average tank of gas. So, today we've discussed how will this help you financially, how will this help the environment and the whole world, and I have completely eliminated all doubts in your mind and reasons as why to not make the switch. So now there's only one thing left to do. Join me, drive down to your dealership, tell them you want to make the change. You want to trade in your current car and buy an electric one, because if we all come together and do this, we can help save the world one drive at a time. Thank you.